way these sandstone formations decorate the landscape. There's nothing like it.
Regardless of what grade you're climbing at, you have the opportunity to get some really great exposure.
The climb looks kind of intimidating, but once you get closer to it, it opens up. You're like, oh, it's actually quite friendly.
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm currently in Jackson, Wyoming. I work year-round for the mountain guides, mostly in the Tetons, but spend shoulder seasons in Moab and the City of Rocks and occasionally down Red Rocks. I'm certified single pitch instructor, assistant rock guide, and apprentice alpine and splitboard guide, and I'm guiding for 8 years. Yeah, Moab's one of my favorite spots, so I'm excited to tell you all about it.
Hi, my name is Jess Worley, and I'm based out of Denver, Colorado. I'm actually currently in graduate school for social work and looking to connect mental health and rock climbing together because I feel like they're a really good complement. I'm an AMGA single pitch instructor as well as an AMGA apprentice rock guide. I've been guiding since 2018, so really looking to get to know some of you.
Hey everybody, my name is Ting Yi and I go by Ting Ting as my legitimate nickname. I am a Vegas, right now, Las Vegas local. I've been living here for 2 years now, so mainly work in Red Rock. I'm an AMGA certified rock guide, started guiding part 2008, so can't wait to share Red Rock with you all.
Hi everyone, my name's Amy Barnes. I guide year-round for the mountain guides. I work in the Tetons in the summer and in the winter as a ski guide. I've been guiding since 1985, and I grew up climbing at the City of Rocks when it was kind of a backwater area and not really on the map. And I'm stoked to tell you about that area, and I reside full-time in Moab, Utah.
Awesome. Well, I'm here to tell you all about climbing in Moab with the mountain guide. So for those who don't know, Moab's in southeast Utah, about an hour off I-70, a couple hours south of Salt Lake City, and just a pretty incredible place. So for me, I haven't made the jump to move to Moab, but I certainly spend a lot of my time there for the good reason that it's just such an incredible place to adventure, whether you're climbing, biking, rafting, going on a geology hike. There's just so much to do. It feels pretty limitless. And the juxtaposition of the La Salle Mountains, which are in this photo, sitting up above town and working your way through the rock layers, it kind of feels like you're visiting Mars, even though you're just a few hours from a major metropolis. One of the things that makes Moab such an incredible place to make a climbing trip out of it is areas like this. So this is Wall Street, which is just a few miles outside of town, home to a couple hundred rock climbs of all different levels. So you can be picking up your groceries for the day, drive a few minutes, and next thing you know, you're at the crag. Moab has tons of places to stay, gear shops for last minute needs, like I said, grocery stores, restaurants. So you can go have these remote wilderness experiences out of Moab, but come back to pretty comfortable amenities. One place that you want to write down is discovermoab.com. That's got a ton of resources as for lodging, whether you want to stay in a hotel or camp. That's a great resource. The Mountain Guides doesn't provide lodging for the camps. These are day camps that we're going to talk about today. So there's tons of great info on Discover Moab for you to check out. There's several national parks within the vicinity of Moab. This is a feature called the Delicate Arch, which is in Arches National Park in a late autumn day. So you get the snow-capped mountains, really clear, beautiful skies. But yeah, it's just, Moab is so cool the way these sandstone formations decorate the landscape. So, there's nothing like it that I've found in the States. We've got tons of different climbing opportunities. You can get yourself on top of one of these towers. Castleton and Ancient Art are two really classic tower objectives, several different routes up each of these features. Fairly approachable grades, something to work up to, but pretty amazing to be, in the car one moment, a couple hours later, standing on a pedestal several hundred feet off the ground. Moab's home to a ton of classic climbs, some pretty unique features, these laser cut cracks that you can find all over the Moab area. But Indian Creek, which is about 40 minutes south, is known for just several lifetimes of laser cut cracks. Some of the classics that we've got photos of here, I've spent days, hours of my life. I remember my first time on railroad tracks was my first trip to Indian Creek, and I had just never done any kind of crack climbing and felt baffled by the endeavor. And then, over time, really coming to learn how to approach crack climbs, technique, just strategy, how to place gear in them. And I've gone on to be able to climb these other climbs, Scarface and Excuse Station. But I remember railroad tracks kind of where I started my Indian Creek climbing career. Yeah, we'll just show you some of the classics down in Indian Creek in the Moab area. This is super crack of the desert. One of the things that makes climbing in Moab unique with these crack climbs is that you might see a grade attached to it and you could say, oh, that grade's really intimidating. But because of these cracks, they're uniform the whole way, that it's really hand and arm size dependent. So, you know, somebody who can climb a 512 really easily because it fits their hand size might not be able to climb a 510 easily. So you kind of have to throw your perception of climbing grades out of the window when you come to Moab and just approach it with a fresh mind, because it really is so unique. Again, just a landscape photo here down in Indian Creek. There's nothing like it. You know, you're in this big basin, you drive down into the canyon, and then, you know, it's like kid in the candy store. Where do you want to go? I took this photo on my first trip to Indian Creek. I found this board painted with "Welcome Home," and it certainly has felt like that over the years. So I hope that some of you get to visit. You'll feel that. You'll be like, oh, this is where I want to spend time. This is a place that's welcoming, and we want to introduce Moab to you so that we can help facilitate that. So we're going to offer a couple different camps in Moab and split mostly into a basic camp and an advanced camp. And so on our basic camps, we want to talk about ground school, you know, how to approach climbing safely. We'll take you to some great venues. Like this is an area in Cane Creek. You know, you make a left at the McDonald's. It's right outside of town. And some good intro to climbing. We'll be on the ground teaching you how to communicate, how to use ropes, how to tie in, things like that. We want to get started on the ground so that we can get that information communicated effectively to you before we put you in what we call the live scenario. We're going to talk about what gear you need, how to put it on your harness, how do you figure out what gear to take up a rock climb. A lot of the climbing in Moab is traditional climbing, meaning that we're going to use cams and nuts and hexes versus clipping bolts. We also have a ton of top roping opportunities, but we'll learn how to use all the clippy bits, as I like to call them. We'll talk about lead belayings, how to belay somebody, you know, the guide generally, so they can get the rope up, which is somewhat advanced belay technique and can make you a really great partner to move into bigger objectives. Climbing technique in Moab is all across the board. You could find yourself in a chimney like on this photo on the left, using all 4 paws at once, or, you know, using some crack climbing technique like the photo on the right. And so our beginner clinics are going to focus heavily on these foundational skills and kind of work our way up and what are your goals and where do we want to get to. The photo on the right looks like a woman who's about to go to a boxing ring, but actually in Moab, when we're climbing cracks, we put on tape gloves to help protect our hands from the sandstone over time, especially when you're learning. Hands can get really beat up. So we use tape gloves or a crack climbing glove to protect our hands. So that'll be one of the learnings, and they make neat souvenirs. As we move into our advanced clinics, we're going to focus on multi-pitch systems, maybe some mock leading, you know, getting more into the nuances of placing gear. This is a friend of mine and another guide at Jackson Mountain Guides climbing a route called the Abraxas Tower, which is a really great way to progress into climbing something like Castleton. Abraxas has a really cool top out. You move through a variety of climbing techniques from crack climbing to chimney climbing. So it's definitely something to put on your list if you're coming to Moab. Yeah, talked about cams a little bit, but photo on the right, you got a rack of cams. And one of the things that makes climbing in Moab unique is that you might be on a route, and instead of having a whole rainbow of cams on your harness, you might have all one size because you're going up a 100-foot rock climb that is uniform 1 inch wide the entire way. So we'll talk about what it means to climb a 0.5 inch crack and what does it mean to climb a 3 inch crack and how do you protect it? How do you climb it? So we'll get into the nitty gritty of that. We'll work our way through transitions. So as you move into tower climbs and multi-pitch climbs, the ropes get a little bit more complicated than a top rope day or just a single pitch climb. So we'll get everybody familiar with what it takes to move up and up and up. Moab's got a bunch of different kinds of rock climbs. On the right is a route called Terma, which is roadside. You just start hiking right from your car uphill. You can be at the base in 45 minutes. And then photo on the left is myself on Castleton Tower, which feels a little bit more off the beaten path. You got to drive a little bit more, hike a little bit more. It's got a bit more adventurous feel. So you can get into it all here. In the end, what we want to foster here is just a really fun time in Moab, with a group of ladies, which is not so common depending on where you live or who your friends are, how you got into climbing. So we want to make sure that you all get a great introduction into climbing in Moab and meet good partners and have an opportunity to find mentorship and some adventure. formally, I just want to invite all of you to come out and have an adventure with us and gain some climbing experience, and hope that we can meet you all and that this works for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jess, and I'm going to be talking a bit about climbing in Colorado. So I'll be covering El Dorado Canyon, Boulder Canyon, and Lumpy Ridge. And these climbing areas are some of my favorites, and they're all located within 1.5 hours of one another, but all offer a lot of different types of climbing, different styles. So it's fun because on our Colorado camps, we're going to be transitioning between a few of these different areas and getting a sense for the different kinds of rock that they have to offer. So I'm going to start talking about El Dorado Canyon. And El Dorado Canyon is honestly probably my all-time favorite climbing area in the world. I just absolutely love it. I want to give a land acknowledgement that El Dorado Canyon is located on the ancestral lands of the Ute people. And it was discovered in the 1950s by climbers, but most of the climbs were put up in the 1970s. And El Dorado Canyon is really special. It has walls that go up to 800 feet tall. So you have everything from single pitch climbs to 9-pitch climbs, and it's mostly traditional climbing. So you'll be placing gear when you're climbing out here. And it has approaches that are anywhere from 30 seconds to about a half an hour, but it is quite a popular climbing area, so all the trails are very well maintained. So this is one of the first climbs I actually did in El Dorado Canyon, and it's a really fun climb. It has a perfect number 2, which is about a 2-inch wide hand crack for its second pitch, but also some really interesting and thoughtful face climbing. This is actually a great climb to start on if you're getting into crack climbing, because you can practice that crack climbing skill, but you also have crimps and techie faces and some stemming that you can use if you want a break from that crack. And this is probably my favorite climb in El Dorado Canyon. This is called the Yellow Spur, and this is the last pitch. So you can see that it's really exposed and airy, and you get some just awesome views of the entire Front Range. Actually, when you're on top of the Yellow Spur, you can see all the way down into Boulder, Denver, Colorado Springs, as well as the whole El Dorado Canyon area. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to include this climb as well because I think this gives you a really good sense of what climbing in Eldo is like. It has a mix of crack climbing as well as really technical, thoughtful faces. So El Dorado Canyon is special in that way, in that even though it is a traditional climbing area, so you'll be protecting your climbs using those crack systems, it's kind of has a bit more of a sporty technical feel to the style of climbing, which is very unique. So this is one of the just all-time classic climbs in El Dorado Canyon. And it's actually very cool because it's only a 30-second walk from the car. And it's kind of interesting because actually you can see the road down below. So often people who are hiking, they'll kind of stop and they'll look up at you and watch you climb, which is a fun experience. And this gives you just a good sense of what the rock is like. So you can see that there's some flakes, there's some cracks, also this highly textured hard sandstone face. And this is Calypso. So one thing I wanted to mention about Eldo is it is old school grading. So when something is a 5.6, at least personally, I feel like it's at least a 5.7, just because these grades were put up a long time ago and often feels a little bit harder. But here you can just see it has a really cool crack system, some really nice textured rock, lots of different fun things to grab onto. It's a really fun style of climbing. And this is the third pitch of Rupert. So one thing I really love about Eldo is that regardless of what grade you're climbing at, you have the opportunity to get some really great exposure, get up high on the wall, get some great views, get high above the canyon. And this is another of the all-time classic climbs in Eldo. And I wanted to include this picture because you can really get a good sense of the rock. So you can see what you're going to be grabbing onto, a lot of this crimpy, highly textured stone, as well as some crack systems out to the left. And then, as Izzy mentioned in her presentation, we'll be doing a lot of ground school where we can start practicing some of these skills in a non-committing, safe environment before we bring them up high on the rock with us. So on the left, this is from a women's course last year, and we're practicing some different techniques on the ground and in a less than vertical environment before we take them up onto the cliff band with us. And then on the right side, I just thought this was a great shot. It really gives you a good sense of what the canyon is like, looking down at that really beautiful red rock. So another place that we will be spending some time in during our women's camps is Boulder Canyon. And Boulder Canyon is located on the ancestral lands of the Cheyenne and Arapaho people. And this is a really special area because you feel like you're out in the middle of nowhere, but you're actually only located a few minutes from downtown Boulder. And Boulder Canyon has a little bit for everyone. It has single pitch sport climbing, multi-pitch trad climbing, and anything from technical sheer faces to hand cracks. So Boulder Canyon is also special because it's actually the site of some of the first known rock climbing ascents in Colorado. So people have been climbing here for a very long time. This is a picture of a climb called Emperor, and these people are on the second pitch of 3 pitches. So you can see that we have some really just beautiful textured granite faces as well as crack systems to use. And this is at one of my favorite spots for teaching. This is a really cool environment. It's called Castle Rock because it has a great area for ground school where we can practice a lot of our different systems, practice building anchors down low, and then transfer our skills up higher on the rock. And Castle Rock has everything from single pitch climbs to 4 pitch climbs. This is one of the classic climbs in Boulder Canyon called Cuss and Crack, and it's a 3 pitch 5/8. So you can see it's a less than vertical climb with some great crack features as well as some really grippy granite. And lastly, I want to talk about Lumpy Ridge. So Lumpy Ridge is a really cool area. It's all primarily multi-pitch traditional climbing from 2 to 5 pitches. And this place is really special because it's located at the foot of Rocky Mountain National Park. So while you're in this terrain, you have these beautiful views of the rest of Rocky Mountain National Park. And this is located on the ancestral land of the Arapaho people. And in the background, you can actually see one of our Colorado 14ers, Long's Peak. So this is one of my favorite climbs. It's called Pear Buttress. And actually a fun tidbit, Tommy Caldwell says this was one of his, he thinks this is the best 5/8 in the United States. So that's quite the claim to fame. So Pear Buttress is a really good example of what climbing in Lumpy is like. It has some great hand cracks, finger cracks, highly textured granite faces, and a lot of these cracks are slightly flared. So they have a bit of a Yosemite style to them. I included this picture because it gives you a great sense of what the rock is like. So here we have a crack that's petering out into this really nice granite face. And the picture on the right here is a 510 called Loose Ends. And this is a really fun climb with some really highly textured granite, and also you have this corner system that you're traveling up. And on the left, we have Melvin's Wheel, and this person's topping out at the top of the climb, where this hand crack actually keeps widening until you can fit your whole body inside. And you can see behind that you have just a great view of Rocky Mountain National Park, including Long's Peak. So for our Colorado camps, we have 2 different styles of camps that we're offering. One is our Gym to Crag camp, and this is an awesome option for people who have a bit of experience climbing at the gym, but are looking to transfer those skills into an outdoor environment. So the first day of these camps will be at Boulder Canyon, and the second day at El Dorado Canyon. And some skills we'll be covering is thorough safety checks, different types of belaying, so with an ATC and with the Grigui, different techniques for tying in, rappelling, and then just getting a general understanding of movement outside. And obviously, it's just a lot of time to climb together in these really special environments. And another of our options is the Women's Multi-Pitch Weekend Climbing Camp. So day 1 of this will be in Boulder Canyon. And day 2 will either be in El Dorado Canyon or at Lumpy Ridge. So this is a great option for people who have some experience doing single pitch climbing and are looking to expand their skill set to start tackling some longer multi-pitch routes. So we'll be doing a lot of multi-pitch climbing techniques, some different descent techniques, including rappelling, practicing a lot of our skills in ground school, doing some mock safety scenarios while we're up on the rock, and then just plenty of time climbing a lot of different multi-pitch routes so we can get comfortable with what that feeling is like. And if you are interested in these camps, this will give you a lot more information on logistics. I did just want to mention that El Dorado Canyon is $10 per car per day to get into the park, and the other areas are free to enter. There are some different camping options, including Boulder County Fairground, as well as if you're taking a course in May, the Colorado State Parks will be opening up, as well as the U.S. Forest Service campgrounds. But if you're looking to have a shower and a bed to sleep in, there's a lot of Airbnb and hotel options within Boulder City, as well as in the surrounding areas. So we can provide you with more information on that if you are indeed interested in doing this camp, one of these camps. So I really hope that some of you can join us. I'll be working at all of these camps, as well as a few of our really awesome other female guides, and we're so excited for you to be a part of this.
Hi, my name is Ting Ting. I would like to talk a little bit about Red Rock. I've been coming to Red Rock ever since I started climbing. And after living in the van for 7 years, I decided I'm gonna stay for longer time. So I settled down in Red Rock in Vegas 2 years ago. So I can climb a lot more here because there's just so much to explore. And one thing I feel really cool about Red Rock, it's kind of unique. I mean, I certainly like the wilderness in the United States, but I think Red Rock is pretty cool because it's right next to the city. So this is like this photo for me is an epic photo, just like you capture the spirit of like Red Rock right after the city. You're like, oh my God, I'm in Vegas, this artificial city. But then you can go into Red Rock and you forget that you are in the city, and the landscape is pretty cool. And then you can go in as far as you want to in the canyon, and you can totally get lost in the wilderness. Well, it's not like voluntary get lost for sure. And for me, Red Rock, the rock here is sandstone. It's pretty cool. The feature is pretty nice. It have a lot of patterns. So like this is one of the sport climb. You can take like maybe like 10 to 15 minutes to just get to it. And so you can get like a couple pictures in and then go back to town for an ice cream. And then also when you like approach to the climbs, you will see a lot of cool features, cool patterns. I feel like a lot of time I take my clients to get to the climb. I will have to say, well, you probably have to, we can like stop every 2 minutes to take photos, even though I know that I want to stop and taking photos, because I'm worried that we might not be able to get to the base of the climb, even though it was only 15 minutes away. But there's so many cool features along the way. And other than like cool single pitch climbs and different rock formations, I think one thing that draw a lot of people to come back to Red Rock is a lot of like easy to moderate multi-pitch climb. And I remember that when I just started climbing, I came back to Red Rock all the time because I say, oh, I wanted to like finish all the 5A multi-pitch in the canyon. And until now, I mean, I've been climbing Red Rock for more than 10 years. I haven't actually accomplished this goal because there's just too many of them. So I can't showcase all the multi-pitch climbs that I love, but I'm just gonna select a few here. So this one is Armatram. This is the third pitch of Armatram. It's like this has this cool chessboard plate. And it's kind of interesting that I think I found in Red Rock is a lot of time when you look from afar, the climb look kind of intimidating, but once you get closer to it, it opens up. You're like, oh, it's actually quite friendly because as you go, and then you just look closely and the hole just kind of show up one after another. So you somehow always find a way up. And the same thing as this one's Birdland 5 pitch 5.7 plus. Geez, that's like so small. The crag's so small and so steep looking. And then how can I climb up there? But nobody has actually a problem. And then they would like get out to the top, just like, ooh, I just did that. And it was like, there's like a great sense of accomplishment there. And then the same thing as this, like Dark Shadow, uber classic 5A full pitch in Red Rock. You approach that, you're like, gee, that dark, that's why it's named Dark Shadows. The dark corner is just right under this huge roof. You're like, geez, there's no way I can do that. But then you just like look closely, you touch the rock, it's like, ooh, this hole is really good. It's like a bucket. So it's just like pour one bucket after another bucket up, and then get to a roof and traverse underneath the roof. So this is another example. This is Frogland 6 pitch 5.8, also uber classic. I know I probably overused the word classic, but to be honest, they are really good. And so this one is also, it's like, gee, I have to traverse over. And then, geez, there are footholds. And then you feel good. And then you like look back, just like, whoa, that was so exposed, so airy. But gee, I just did that. That was incredible. And also this one, if you somehow come here in a hot summer day, this is a cool place to go. It's this called the Great Red Book, huge dihedral. It's stay in the shade for a long time. And it's, geez, I'm out of words to describe how great all these clients are. So maybe you, after seeing all these photos, it's like, how are we gonna get there? So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about staying here and how to get in. So you can choose the camp. There's a campground right outside of Red Rock Canyon, but also you can stay in a hotel. There's little hotels in town, as you probably already know, and also AMBNB. And actually AMBNB is something that I recommend if you have a small group. I feel like it's almost better than camping because you gotta have a shower and then you gotta cook your own food. And right now to enter Red Rock Canyon, the toll booth, there's a little things that you have to pay attention to. It's like, in addition to have like National Park Pass or Red Rock Canyon entry pass, if you want to enter the Scenic Loop Drive after 8 a.m., you actually have to go up to recreation.gov website to get a reservation to enter. They are trying to like minimize they are doing a little bit traffic control so everybody can get a good feeling to be like out there. So in Red Rock, we are offering two different kind of women's weekend. One is intro to outdoor, the other one is intro to trad. And intro to outdoor is basically just like if you are new to climbing or you have done a lot of like gym climbing, you want to say, okay, I want to touch like real rock. Or maybe you have climbed a little bit, but you want to advance your climbing skills, because in intro to outdoor, we will actually try to climb a lot. And one thing good about Red Rock is that, you know, if you talk to us about what kind of climbing skill you want to work with, and if you say, oh, I'm not very good at slab, okay, I find slab for you. And then if you say, I want to, you know, climb some small holes, oh, there's vertical walls that have small holes that practice your technical and balancing skills. And if you say, oh, I want to actually pour like big holes and a little bit overhang route, we have those too. So just talk to me, and then we will find like suitable routes for you to practice your skills on. And then obviously you would take care of like some knot craft, and then how to belay, how to rappel, so you feel very safe out there. And I'll tell you some story about our little cute desert tortoise. And so you will understand that how to handle those wild animals. And in intro to trad, basically is also tailored to people. You can be a climber for a while, or you can be a total beginner. So eventually you will learn all about like how to place like gear safely. And then also all the technical stuff that so prepare the solid foundation for you to start leading, and then advance to multi-pitch. And then if you already come with like uber good foundation, then we will teach you some advanced skills too. And a lot of people actually ask us like, how hard do I have to climb to enter intro to trad? I would say you don't have to worry about it, because it's more about the proficiency of the technical skills of what we focus on. And I actually, when I start climbing, I actually start as a trad climber. So at that time, I didn't know anything. But then I learned like how cool trad is, and start my venture out to a lot of modern multi-pitch route in Red Rock. So I'm gonna show you a few photos, what the weekends will be like. This is one of the group photo. Actually, after I started instructing the women's camp, I just like, it's really, I mean, Red Rock is already magical enough. I mean, but it can be even more magical with a lot of powerful women. So it's really cool. And so here is like this, she is trying to like do a Markley in a crag. You can see it's really deep, looking intimidating. But remember, I told you, it might look intimidating, but then it's always friendly. That's like the thing about Red Rock. And then this is one of the places to practice multi-pitching skills. Obviously, Indian Creek has cool cracks, but Red Rock have cool cracks too. So if you want to practice a little bit of crack climbing skill, we can prepare you for that. And then you can go to Moab to take those advanced like crack climbing camps. Obviously, we need to be, you know, as a climber, we want to know how to work our rope. I like to say that when there's rope, there's hope. So don't lose your rope, and handle that very well. Look, she has this awesome smile, because that gear in that crag is bomber. Yeah, love that. That's how it looks. And obviously we need to know how to build anchor, because that's the foundation for like advanced to multi-pitch, and build a safe top rope too. So maybe I'll see you there in Red Rock.
Hi everyone, I'm here to give you a little talk about City of the Rocks, Idaho. The City of Rocks is very different from Las Vegas and these other areas that you've been hearing about today because the city is very remote. It sits on the border of southeast Idaho and northern Utah. And the closest city is Salt Lake City at about 3 hours away, and Boise, Idaho, which is about 4 hours away. So there are two unique areas at the City of Rocks. One is City of Rocks National Reserve. The reserve is a big inholding with a lot of traditional areas for climbing. The city was developed back in the 50s and 60s, and it definitely has a more traditional feel of climbing. The other area that's very close by that we'll also be climbing at is Castle Rocks. And Castle Rock was purchased by climbers and then handed over to the state. And it was developed as a climbing area in 2003. And it has a lot more moderate climbs and sport climbs, a little different feel than the traditional area of City of Rocks. This right here is a picture of climbing the beautiful granite that you find in the area. You can see that there are cracks, there are big chicken heads, and there are slabs. So there's a wide variety of climbing types. You'll find yourself working on all types of climbing, and it's just a lovely, lovely area to get out and try all different types of climbing routes. As I said before, this is located on the border of Idaho and Utah. It is the ancestral lands of the Shoshone-Bannock Indians. And in the late 1800s, immigrants passed this way because it was the north shot off of the California Trail into the Oregon Trail. And along the way, these two huge formations, which are called the Twin Sisters, were an iconic landmark for this junction in the Oregon Trail. As you can see, this is just beautiful granite, and there are huge outcroppings everywhere for climbing. And it's also the town of Almo is about 153 people. And the people of Almo have some inholdings out here for cattle ranching. And there's also dairy farming in the area. This is a really nice photo of an area that's very easy to get to. It's called Parking Lot Rock. And on this rock, there are many, many, many routes that you can just drive up to with your car, get out, walk about 5 minutes, and you have access to crack climbing, face climbing, and slab climbing. And, you can walk and find shade anywhere or sun, no matter what time of year it is. For the women weekend camps at the City of Rocks, we will be covering basic skills in the basic class. So coming out, we're going to learn about belaying, knots, protection. You're going to climb, a ton of sport and trad routes. We're going to learn about anchor transitions, and then you'll also be rappelling, and definitely we'll be working on all varied climbing movement techniques. For the advanced program, we're going to learn how to belay with all different type of belay devices, be it a gree-gree or a plaquette. And we'll also learn about placing protection, removing protection, placing anchors, setting transitions with anchors. And we're going to definitely be climbing at a harder grade so that we can improve our personal level. And then there's also an option for lead climbing on that day. So we can work with mock leading and then hopefully roll into some lead climbing. Our mornings basically start at camp. We will be camping, and we definitely like to have our coffee and cereal on the rocks. And this is just a nice photo overlooking the Almo Pluton, the granite batholith that has eroded, that has created all this incredible rock for us to climb in this area. These are just a couple of photos of different types of belaying we'll be working on. We definitely want to get people in the advanced class feeling confident about belaying their partners from above, like the photo on the right. And then we want to make sure that everyone is competent in using different types of belay devices, like a gree-gree or a plaquette, like we show on the photo on the left. It's really important to me to be able to make everyone a better climbing partner. I'm always thrilled when people want to hire a guide, but I also want everyone to walk away from a course with independence so that you have a keen eye on what's going on when you're climbing outside with other people. So definitely we will be working on all of our rope handling skills, how to be a better partner, how to do all of our safety checks so that we know we're going down the right path to be a safe climber while we're climbing outdoors. Have you just ever wondered what to do when you get to the top of a climb and you need to transition to get out of your climbing system and onto a rappel system? For the advanced class, we are going to work on how to transition out of our climbing rope and onto a rappel system. We'll learn about saddlebagging ropes and working with belay blocks. The City of Rocks is kind of a little bit of a tricky area due to its history. A lot of accidents happen here by wrapping off the end of your rope or lowering off the end of your rope. So we're going to pay really keen attention to those skill sets while we're there so that you can walk away from climbing at the city and feel like you have a good idea of what rope you need for the job. Another thing we're going to work on is climbing. This is a really nice photo of just the beautiful chicken heads that you see at the city on lovely, lovely gold and granite. And so the main thing we're going to work on is trying to get everybody moving competently over stone, whether you're climbing slab, whether you're going to climb on nice face climbs with large chicken holds, or we'll be climbing on the traditional routes of the crack routes that were put up back in the earlier days. One thing that happens at the city is we have a lot of exposed belay ledges where there's a lot of secondary exposure underneath you. So what we're going to do is make sure that everybody understands how they can close their systems with their ropes, and you can hang out on that ledge and be safe while your lead climber is climbing away from you, and you'll have a very competent understanding of closing your systems while you're out on secondary exposure. This is a great picture of Castle Rocks. This is the Castle Rock. It is 5 pitches to the top. So between the city and Castle Rocks, it hosts routes that are single pitches up to 5 pitches long. And this is just a lovely sunny day in June at the top of pitch 1 and heading up to summit out on pitch 5. This route is called Big Time, and it's a 5/8. And it is a very enjoyable way to spend the morning climbing. One thing that's really unique about the city is with all these fins and domes, there are climbs on all different aspects. So no matter what time of year that you show up to climb in the City of Rocks, you're going to be able to chase sun or chase shade. It is a high altitude desert at 7,000 feet. So if it is shady and cooler air temperatures, you'll definitely have your puffy jacket on. But if it's sunny and warm, you'll definitely be stripped down and enjoying the warmth. One thing that's really lovely and unique about both the City of Rocks and Castle Rocks is our long approach is a short approach at Red Rock or Moab. So you get to jump out of the car, throw your pack on, and within 10 to 30 minutes, you're at the base of the climbing, and it's just a beautiful area. This time of year in the spring, you can see that the wyathia are blooming, and so are the wild iris. Some of the classics in the area, we'll start on the left. City Girls is a mixed climb. It's actually a bolted route, but there are some places to jam your hand in a crack. It's a climb that's a little close to my heart since I put that route up back in the 80s, so it's been around for a while. Another really cool climb is Tribal Boundaries. That's a 5/10. And it's very crimpy and very small patina flakes. And it sits on Flaming Rock and is a beautiful landmark in the inner city to travel down to, hike down to and climb. On the right is the ever popular Wheat Thin. It's one of the original crack climbs in the area at 5/7. It sits on Elephant Rock. And when you actually turn into the City of Rocks proper, Elephant Rock is there to greet you. And that whole climbing area is just stacked with beautiful 5/7, 5/8, 5/9 hand cracks. It's a lovely area. And you park the car and you walk about 5 minutes to get there. This is a good example of being up on a secondary exposure for a ledge for climbing. These ladies are at a camp from last year, and they're about 25 feet off the ground there. So you can see that there are a variety of climbs starting at the left. You can see a climber up high on a face climb, 5/8 face climb called Delay of Game. In the center, the big open book is called Norma's Book, and then the ever popular Bat Wings Direct. And right there you have a wide variety of styles of climbing. So if you come to this camp, you'll definitely expand your horizons on sport climbing, slab climbing, and crack climbing. This is towards the top Castle Rock on Big Time. As you can see, it is quite a ways off the ground with the small road below. But yeah, this is just a lovely, lovely way to spend the morning climbing on Big Time. And here's another classic up in the City of Rocks called Tennis-Anyone. This is another crag up at the Decadent Wall area, or the Bread Loaves. And it's afternoon shade, so it's a great place to go when the day is hot, and it is just stacked with 5'10", 5'9", 5'8", 5'7" routes. So there's no need to walk very far when you can find beautiful climbing this close to the car. A really great landmark at the city is called Bath Rock. Although there are many, many climbs on it, there is a very famous cowboy via ferrata that was put up back in the 60s. Rumor has it that the cowboys put the route up and then went up in their cowboy boots. So if they can get up and in their cowboy boots, we can just generally walk right up there. It's a great place to go after having dinner, to go have dinner digest and watch the clouds roll by and just take in the awesomeness of this area. This is the end of camp, and as you can tell, there are a lot of happy ladies, and it's June and we're all wearing our puffy coats, so don't forget to bring your warm wear. And know that in the small town of Elmo, there is a pizza parlor, a small hotel, and there's a country store, and there's one of the best beer stores at the pizza parlor within 300 miles. And there's also commercial hot springs, which is a great place to go soak in the evening. And so you'll want to bring your swimsuit for that. Thanks, everyone. And I hope that you can join me at the City of Rocks this summer.